Hi, this is Larry Johnson coming to you again from Stevens Games with our second WTR Spotlight draft with Matt D'Antuono, who previously 3-0'd our first draft, and he opened a pretty solid pack one, pick one with Crippling Crush. I think Crippling Crush is pretty far and away determined to be one of the absolute best picks for a pack one, pick one in the set. Did see a red sink below, so you can imagine the player on his left will be taking that one pretty quickly out of the next pack, but I mean, overall, what a fantastic start to a draft with a red Crippling Crush. So Matt shuffling up his pack and sending it over. Quick note about Matt: he is a fantastic player. He's really a pillar in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area of community of Flesh and Blood players. Head of the Discord channel, really super involved. When I first opened my store, he was one of the first people to reach out to me and get me trial decks to give out to players. So fantastic guy. Really, really great. Support for the community. So Matt gets his second pack here, and he's going to flip through it, and he's going to see an Iron Song Response, Red Sharpened Steel, which is pretty good, and a Tome of Fyendal. That is Tome of Fyendal and a Yellow Pummel. This is an interesting pack. With his first pack, Crippling Crush, he definitely is going to want to lean into Guardian. Even a blue Debilitate there is also a solid pickup for him. Generally in draft, you want to stay open, but when you open a power pick like a Crippling Crush, a lot of times you kind of want to lean into that pick. And Tome of Fyendal is a fine choice to do that. The Guardian plays a few different ways. You have the ability to go with an Anathos. That is a pretty well first couple picks for him. But with Guardian, you have the ability to go kind of like a Crippling Crush, dominate kind of turn, and go in with a defensive Anathos. So this pack, he sees a Lord of the Wind, which is another mythic. There's 3 mythics in a row from Matt, which is pretty incredible. Not necessarily, I don't think he would dig the mythic. There's a Red Debilitate and a blue Unmovable. I think that based on those first picks, blue Unmovable would be great. Would be a great pickup. Looking at the Lord of the Wind, I can see why he might be considering taking that. There's also a Red Head Jab in the pack. So Ninja appears not to be a priority for anybody on his right at the moment. Really tough pick. There's a chance he might take the Lord of the Wind just to try to see if he can get the combo line. But I think in his position here, I would probably be taking the blue Unmovable. He already has 2 great cards for a defensive Anathos deck, and even the Red Debilitate will be a perfectly acceptable pick. So I think that he has a couple options. Staying open with the Unmovable Pummel, he's looking at the Unmovable. I think that's probably the correct pick. Still thinking about it, but he goes with the Lord of the Wind. It's an interesting pick. I think that this early in the draft, you can do a speculative pick like that. A blue Unmovable, it would be great for Matt's deck the way it is, but I can see him wanting to venture in Ninja, especially considering the last draft, Ninja only had 1 drafter table. So looking at the blue Staunch Response, blue Debilitate also in the pack. Nothing else really for the Guardian route here. I think by taking that blue Staunch, I think that he's probably going to lean into Guardian pretty hard. Generally, when you're drafting any kind of game, you want to try to stay as open and be flexible as you can early in the pick. But there are those rare exceptions, like when you open one of the best cards in a particular class, and you want to lean into that class and make sure people stay off of that. So with this pack here, nothing too exciting. If he's going the defensive Anathos route, it does make sense to pick up those Iron Rock Gauntlets. You're trying to turtle up, and with the Tome of Fyendal already in the deck, that could definitely give him a lot of extra life gain. So he's looking at a few cards. The blue Head Jab is also an interesting pickup. Again, kind of noting Ninja. Might not be picked up right now by anybody. There's nothing really else too much for Guardian, but he goes with a yellow Wounding Bull. It was an interesting pickup. I think I probably would have gone with the Iron Rock Gauntlets there, especially considering the cards he's seeing. And again, in this pack, he sees a yellow Sink Below and a blue Staunch Response. So it appears in this seat the defensive Anathos build is pretty wide open from where he's drafting at. Either the Think Below or the Staunch Response would be great pickups for him here. Nothing else really for Guardian in the pack, so that's definitely something to take note of. And he's gonna take that Staunch Response, which again with the Fatigue Guardian build, you're gonna want to be loading up on blue pitch. Having cards like Crippling Crush, you can kind of stick in arsenal, wait for the opportune time to pop them off with a dominated turn, and really push that tempo advantage for your favor. But you're really looking to play the long game, and one of the cards that helps playing the long game is a Stonewall Confidence, which is in the pack. But he goes with the red Crush Confidence. I generally find that in WTR draft, the red guardian cards will typically wheel. I guess he's just really wanting to make sure he has a good amount of attack reactions. Crush Confidence isn't necessarily one of the best guardian cards to draft, but he picks up a yellow unmovable in this pack, so he's definitely making sure he's getting a good amount of defense. So I imagine he's probably going to start leaning toward that route of like very fatigue Anathos. So in this pack, definitely worth noting there are no Guardian cards, so there's at least one more, maybe two more Guardian drafters at the table, which is probably a bit concerning for Matt at this point in the draft. But Matt still with a solid pickup of a blue Raging Onslaught. It's a blue pitch, swings for a heavy amount, and it blocks for 3. So that is a great pickup for Matt, especially considering Guardian's looking a little bit cut in the packs. So his next pack here, he sees a blue Debilitate and in an Iron Rot Helm. Generally, I'm not a big fan of the Iron Rod Helm because you want to get the Guardian headpiece, the helm. So you guys would go with the Debilitate. As we kind of saw in our first draft, equipment isn't necessarily the highest priority pick things at the table, so Matt could be factoring that previous knowledge from the back. But again, a red Debilitate coming around, that is a great pickup for Matt at this point in the draft. Kind of waiting on the pack here. Matt previously in the draft he 3-0'd. He went with a low cost Dorinthia build, which was really great. He was to the left of James. So while James was drafting the warrior deck that we saw him on, Matt was taking those other cards. They were actually right next to each other as far as seats go. So definitely Matt is a very good drafter. Can pick up on signals, and he's really leaning into this Guardian build, and I imagine when we see him flip through his pack, it's going to be a pretty ridiculous pack 1 for Matt. So between the Wounding Blow and Emerging Power, I think I would probably go with the blue pitch here. Wounding Blow, this is not a Wounding Blow deck for Matt. 2 Brute cards coming around, so it's looking like Brute is, you might have one person, maybe 2 people in Brute. Those are both pretty decent Brute cards, nothing really to write home about, but they're nice pickups for a person if they happen to get that pick 14, pick 13. So Matt here with what it looks to be like a pretty decent start of a Guardian deck. I mean, the Crippling Crush by itself is probably a top 5 pick in the set, but being able to pick up the unmovables, the staunch responses, he's really setting himself up to be in a strong position. So the Red Crippling Crush is definitely the hallmark card is what he's picked up here, but it's definitely worth noting that Matt did make some interesting selections with the Wounding Bull and a couple of yellows that may have been better poised to be blues. But all in all, I mean, very, very strong pack 1 where you can pick up a Tome of Findal and a Crippling Crush. So I think as long as Matt stays on this path, I don't see him leaving Guardian at all for this point. He has a very good setup with a lot of rare Guardian cards and probably one of the best pack 1 pick ones in the set. So let's see if he can expand his Guardian pool and kind of fill out some of those holes of not having quite enough blues yet for the Guardian deck. So Iron Rod Plate, a yellow star or red staunch response, and a blue last ditch effort. That card is it's a super in the set. Kind of does everything you want it to do for the defensive Guardian deck. Blue pitch blocks for 3, and it's a late game card. So its ability that if you do happen to be in a fatigue situation, that card coming for 8 with Go Again is going to be pretty ridiculous with Guardian. So again, picking up that blue, going to be looking to get more blues for the deck, especially if getting a card like that on your pack 2 pick 1. That definitely should help cement Matt into more of a defensive Anathos build. Sit back, soak up a lot of damage. I mean, with the Tome of Findal, if he's able to pick up any kind of, Blessing and Deliverance in the second pack or any kind of sigils, that would definitely give Matt, allowing him to play at a higher life total than 20 in Blitz is incredibly strong. So that is pretty incredible. Matt opens a second last-ditch effort. So Matt is definitely in the seat where he's getting a lot of the premium picks. Multiple Majestics, multiple Supers. So Matt is he has a hot hand right now in the draft. Taking a look at the Crippling Crush, probably at this point just seeing what's going to come back around the table for him here. We have to assume there might be another Guardian drafter because of the lack of Guardian picks, but taking a look at the Pummel, taking a look at the Last Ditch Effort. I think it's just the Last Ditch Effort here. You're happy to play 2 of them. They fit into your game plan, and they really help. They really help the deck. So Matt sees a blue sigil, which is not nearly as impressive as the red in Blitz. Blue Raging Onslaught, and looks like there's a Snatch in the back of the pack, but this isn't really a Snatch deck for Matt here. The yellow Debilitate would be a good amount. I would probably go with the Iron Rod Boots at this point, just to kind of really shore up that defense. Crippling Crush is also a good card. The blue pitch is very important for Matt at this point, but he goes with the yellow Debilitate, which is a good pickup for him at this point. I think Matt is definitely trying to get some more attack actions in his deck. So couple Iron Rot Plates in this deck, so the universe might be telling Matt to take one of them. So he's looking through the pack. There's nothing really too much else for Guardian here that I think Matt would want to pick up at this point. So probably it's pretty safe to assume that there's a Guardian Drafter a couple seats away from Matt. But he goes with the foiled Iron Rot Plate for some style points. And he's going to pass it around. So at this point, there's a Hope Merchant's Hood. Not really what Matt wants to see. He really hopes he can get one of those Guardian headpieces around. The Red Crippling Crush is a nice card for him. Got to be a bit concerning that he's not seeing a lot of blue Guardian Premier cards. So he doesn't take the attack reaction. So he might be getting cut a little bit on his left from Guardian. But he's gonna try to shore up those blues throughout the course of the draft. And this pack really has nothing for Matt. If I'm in Matt's situation, I'm looking at this pack and I'm thinking there's a high likelihood there might be two other Guardian drafters at the table. But I think at this point, Matt he's too far down in the Guardian to try to do something. But he's going to take a red Nimblism. I'm not quite sure on that pick. I don't imagine that makes Matt's deck. The blue regurgitating Slog is a pitch 3, and you could combo it with Slogism. So I'm guessing Matt is probably just concerned there might be a Solo Ninja drafter table. But he goes with a Stonewall Confidence blue, which is a fantastic card for the way Matt is trying to set up his defensive Anothos deck. It's a blue pitch, and Stonewall Confidence allows you to basically trade, one card and block 5 damage, which is great for Matt. It allows you to get things in pitch to be able to swing Anothos for 6. So it kind of does a little bit of everything with the deck. So Matt's seeing a yellow Staunch Response, a blue Wounding Bolt. The Potion of Strength is interesting. Some people like to take the Potion of Strength to try to set up like one-turn kill style Bravo decks. Matt elects not to do that. He just takes the Stonewall Confidence and passes the pack. Overall, again, Matt's draft is looking pretty solid. He's about midway through pack 2, and you have to kind of start considering that if he's going with the defensive Anothos build, he's going to want to try to bolster the amount of blues in his deck. But he has some incredibly strong reds, being able to pick up, and if he does find himself leaning more toward doing an attacking Bravo, getting a card like a Slogism you see in hand here. Yellow Crippling Crush is also a great choice for him here. So, nice thing about Yellow Crippling Crush in Matt's deck is that it kind of allows him to hedge a little bit. If he's not seeing a lot of blues, you have to imagine there's probably another Guardian player at the table who is soaking up those blues too. So, in Matt's position where he's at, and he's clearly getting cut from his left, he's going to try to get as many blues as he can to ensure that he can still function as a Guardian player. Because if he has competition for more blues at the table in Guardian, then there's a chance that he might be running a little bit more generics than he would want to. But being able to snag a blue Raging Onslaught or even a blue Wounding Blow would be good. But I think the Raging Onslaught is definitely the correct pick for Matt here. So unfortunately for Matt, he's finding himself a little bit squeezed on the left from another Guardian player, I would imagine. So he's probably getting a little bit nervous now that he might not be able to get the blue count up he needs to really play the defensive Anothos deck. So being able to kind of position himself into more of a crush deck is a good plan. So really nothing for Matt in this pack. He already has an Iron Rot Plate. If he's concerned about a brute, like an open brute player, there are 2 strong brute cards in the pack. So he's probably going to take the Wrecker Realm just to hate draft it out of the table. None of the other cards are really exceptional. The Red Pack Hunt is fine, but I think the Yellow Wrecker Realm does a lot more for brute than the Pack Hunt does. As we saw with the last draft, at the last table there was only one Ninja player, and it seems as if this pod there might be only one Brute player. So, based on the cards that are coming around, so Matt takes a yellow Emerging Power, not really a card he wants to put in any of his decks, but enough to take a Guardian card and a playable one at that. So, could definitely make the deck. I'm sure Matt won't be too excited if it makes the deck, but it's a good card that. Again, if he finds himself leaning more toward the one turn kill Bravo, having Emerging Power on the field could help set up those turns. So showing the 2 last ditch efforts is definitely strong for Matt. He does have some picks in the deck that I'm sure he was not super excited to make. Again, getting cut from the left is pretty tough with this. Matt did everything in his power he could to kind of shore up the Guardian deck and take the cards out of it as to not send a single the Guardian was open. But seems like somebody else maybe opened a strong Guardian card in pack one, pack one, pick one, or pack one, pick two, and they might have moved in the Guardian also. So Matt definitely getting cut from his left. There might be another Guardian drafter at the table just because the amount of blue cards that are not in the packs that's pretty telling. So getting ready to open pack three. Matt's deck is very good at this point. Probably looking to look for trying to get some more life gain stuff, either through blessing and deliverances, even sigils if he's opens the red one. I don't think I would go with anything other than the red. It's not really worth the card to gain 2 life. Even 1 life is pretty subpar, even though it's a blue pitch. So Matt opens his pack, and he opens the Guardian Helm and his Singing Steelblade. Not a pick that Matt's going to take for the Singing Steelblade, but the Guardian Helm is definitely premier. The Stonewall Confidence is also a great fit in his deck. So he has 2 cards he could pick. Because of the way the draft is going, he has to imagine he's not going to see that Balloon Stonewall Confidence again. So he's going to take that Guardian Helm just to make sure it gets it back to him. Because if there does happen to be at least 1, maybe 2 more drafters at the table, it's unlikely that Helm is going to come back around. So Matt taking the premier card for his pick, really trying to get his defensive shirt up. In the defensive Anathos deck, the Helm is a fantastic addition. Even if he slides toward the 1-turn kill Bravo deck, being able to get extra intellect on a turn he's ready to push lethal is pretty strong. And with this pack, I think that there are a few cards in here that he would want. The red disable is a very strong card. There also is a Goliath Gauntlet. I think that this is kind of a pivotal pick for Matt because he can go with the disable or he can go with the Goliath Gauntlet if he thinks he's going to go more for an attacking build. So he goes with the disable. Ideally, I imagine he would probably want a blue disable, but picking up a red disable is definitely strong. So he's taking a look at the pack here. There's a yellow unmovable, a blue pummel, and another helm. So Matt probably slightly regretting that helm pick initially, but I think that taking it in that pick was the correct thing to do. So he has a yellow debilitate he's looking at. So it definitely appears that on his right hand side for sure that the Guardian player is not there, or at least not within a few seats of him on his right. So you have to imagine he's going to be he might see another pack or 2 of decent Guardian cards, and then I think things will start getting cut off by that point. So he has choice between a blue pummel and a yellow unmovable and the debilitate, which he goes with that. Maybe he goes with that. So I think any of those picks in that pack were perfectly reasonable. So he's looking at yellow sagas, and the red sigil is a great pickup for Matt. Especially it allows him to really lean into the defensive build. Gaining 3 life in blitz is in draft is incredibly strong. And right now with the Tome of Findal and the sigil, Matt is, even if you go on the low end, Matt's effectively playing at 25 life, which is very, very strong in a format like draft. So taking a quick thumb through this pack, there's nothing really here for Matt as far as pick order goes. He doesn't need the helm. There's the emerging power, which is decent in the 1-turn kill deck. I don't know if that's where really Matt is at right now. He's still missing a lot of pieces from the 1-turn kill deck. He not having Goliath Gauntlets or Slogisms or Regurgitating Slog. Those are both cards that that he's really wanting to see in a 1-turn kill style deck. But this pack he does open a red disable, which is a great card for him. Again, not really in the defensive Anathos mindset, but at this point, with Matt getting cut off of blue Guardian cards, I imagine he's just trying to make sure he gets enough playables for his deck. Yellow Blessing and Deliverance is a nice pickup that can gain Matt some life. Ideally, he's not really wanting to play a yellow. He would much prefer a blue or a red for either the pitch or for the life gain. But he takes the card, and I imagine the Blessing and Deliverance is going to make Matt's deck. It's a good card for Matt, and especially with him with the Tome of Findal, the Sigil of Solace, like extra life gain is really where Matt wants to be right now. So even though his pitch is a little bit lower than I'm sure he wants it to be, being in a position to be able to gain that much life over the course of the game, he can basically trade that life for a card, which could make up that pitch difference as he plays through. So he sees a couple Guardian cards that will be good for him. The Buckling Blow is perfectly reasonable. A yellow, so while it's not a blue, it definitely helps him with resource. And the -1/-1 counters that Buckling Blow would provide on a crush is useful, and it can be pertinent for people who are running an Iron Rot piece. So kind of similarly for Matt, he's between the Slogism and the Raging Onslaught. Probably Slogism is the pick. I mean, Matt is, he's crafting a deck that, he has the ability to do a big, heavy turn with a Crippling Crush, or maybe a Slogism. If he's able to pick up Regurgitating Slug, that would also help push damage. But he's kind of in between more of a one-turn kill style deck and a defensive deck, which is a fine place to be. There's a lot of overlap between those two decks. So the Helm, which is interesting, the Helm comes all the way back around the table. It's interesting that the other Guardian players didn't take that unless there was another one that was opened up. I would strongly imagine there's probably at least one other Guardian player. So to see that Helm open, you'd have to either imagine there was two Helms opened or the Guardian player doesn't value equipment. So Yellow Slogism, perfectly good pick. Kind of Matt is branching into like the one-turn kill style deck that if he can set that up. Again, with the yellow having the pitch in the deck is a good thing for him. It allows him to kind of cheat a little bit on resources. Again, really that life gain that he has in the deck is probably going to factor in a lot for him to be able to eat some turns he otherwise wouldn't. But in this pack, there's nothing really for him here. This is not a scour the battlefield deck, so I think he's just trying to shore up a weakness of his deck and just take a strong card away from another player who's on a low cost aggro deck. So overall, Matt has a very, very solid draft deck. The amount of life gain that he has, the Crippling Crush, Tome of Fyendal, he was in an interesting spot. It looked as if he was getting cut on Guardian a little bit, but I think that given that information and the draft picks he made, he did a good job pivoting and dealing with that for the future.